presentation of Showtime Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the Showbox Casino Resort in Santa Ynez, California, this is Showbox, the new generation.
And nobody gonna give you nothing for nothing. You gotta work for what you get. You gotta get them shots off. Left hook, right hand.
Both hands up, both hands up. Let's go. Go out there, focus on the job that has to be done.
This is what it takes to be champ. This is what it takes right here, baby.
Opportunity only knocking once. Let's go.
Tonight we come to you from Showbox Casino Resort in Santa Ynez, California, in the wine country of the Central Coast for the series that just keeps getting better with time. It's Showbox, the new generation. We begin with a junior welterweight matchup of SoCal fighters as El Maestro, unbeaten Mauricio Herrera, takes on former world champion Mike Anchondo. Then in our main event, the man who owns the record for consecutive first-round KOs to start a career, Tyrone Brunson, steps way up in class to fight the experienced Carson Jones in a scheduled 10-rounder. Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this latest edition of Showbox, the new generation. I'm Kurt Menefee. Well, in our main event tonight, we focus on a Philadelphia fighter, a young man who started his career by setting a record. 19 consecutive first-round knockouts, most ever done, but don't go thinking about a young Joe Frazier. Tyrone Brunson has gotten a lot of notoriety because of the streak, but he's also taken a lot of criticism as many of the opponents, particularly those late in the streak, were, let's just say, more carefully selected than another famous Philadelphia fighters, Rocky Balboas. But now he's 4 years into his pro career, and even the young Brunson admits that he feels like he's really just beginning because of that streak. And tonight, he faces his toughest opponent yet in a showcase on Showbox and wants to prove to the world that his skills are indeed for real. We are joined by longtime Showbox analyst Steve Farhood. And Steve, you take a look at Brunson. 22 fights as a professional, 20 knockouts, hasn't been beaten, yet there are still more questions than answers about just how good he really is.
Oh, definitely, Kurt. The two questions you have to ask about any young fighter: who's he beaten and what's he got? Well, Tyrone Brunson, who's he beaten? Nobody. What's he got? I think a lot. Hand speed, punching power, excellent amateur pedigree, and he's from Philadelphia. So with those questions answered, the question that remains, where is Tyrone Brunson headed? I think tonight we begin to get an answer to that question. Tyrone Brunson's unique. He's a 22-fight veteran, but because of that first-round knockout streak, he's really just a rookie. Imagine never having seen a round card go across your corner. Imagine never having sat on your stool between rounds. Imagine never having broken a sweat in a fight. Until 3 fights ago, that was Tyrone Brunson. He's almost apologetic of that knockout record, and if not embarrassed. And he knows that tonight is his chance to begin to prove he's a real Philadelphia fighter. Carson Jones looks a little bit like Phil Ivey, and if you judge him by the risky fights he's taken on short notice, he's just as much of a gambler. Jones lost most of those fights, but he's hung tough in almost all of them. And he's quite sure that he's way too good, way too experienced for Tyrone Brunson. Jones is a seasoned 10-round fighter, while Brunson's been past 1 round only 3 times. Jones is also in great shape. There'll be no excuses tonight.
We're also joined by former light heavyweight champion Antonio Tarver. And Antonio, Tyrone Brunson always will be known for that 19-0 start, first-round knockout, setting the record. But when you talk to him, even he admits that that streak may have actually hurt him more than it did help him.
Yes, and it could have hurt him in this way. In his own mind, he truly don't believe that he can live up to those expectations. 2 things are happening tonight. We have a classic case of identity theft or identity crisis. Tonight, Tyrone Brunson will show us exactly what type of fighter he truly is.
All right, that comes up in our main event. But first, we've got a scheduled 8-round. Brunson. No one's had more consecutive first-round knockouts to start a career yet. He feels no one has more to prove. Kid Carson Jones says, there's no way Brunson can beat me. Whatever he does, I can adapt. Brunson versus Jones. It's our junior middleweight main event scheduled for 10 rounds. But first, let's take a look at what's coming your way on the sports calendar. Wednesday night, it's a new episode of the award-winning Inside the NFL. Join JB, Phil, Chris, and Warren every week for NFL news, perspective, and analysis. New episodes premiere every Wednesday with replays throughout the week. Next Saturday night, it's Showtime Championship Boxing. Showbox alums Timothy Bradley and Lamont Peterson will square off for the WBO Junior welterweight title. And the always exciting and unconventional Vic Tarchinian meets Tomas Rojas with 2 World Super Flyweight titles on the line. Showbox is back on the 18th with a triple header. The card starts with a battle of undefeated junior middleweights when amateur star Sean Porter takes on Jamar Patterson. Then Leonard Lane and Saeed El-Harak face off in a battle of undefeated developing welterweight prospects. And in the headliner, it's the Showbox return of still undefeated Fernando Guerrero, who will face the challenge of once-beaten Jesse Nicklau. The following night, MMA action is headlined by the return of former Strikeforce middleweight champion Kung Lee. He takes on Scott Hands of Steel Smith. The lightweight title is on the line in a championship rematch between Josh Thompson and Gilbert Melendez. Matt Lindland will do battle with Jacare. Former Elite XC middleweight champ Robbie Lawler will be in action. And King Mo makes his Strikeforce debut. In January, Strikeforce brings you more MMA action on the 30th, with a card featuring powerful female star Chris Cyborg, dangerous Nick Diaz, and the MMA debut of Heisman Trophy winner, 2-time NFL All-Star, Olympic bobsledder, and 5th-degree black belt Herschel Walker. And finally, look for the second stage of the Super 6 World Boxing Classic in early 2010, when the Matrix, Andre Durrell, will face current tournament leader King Arthur Abraham. For the complete schedule of events and everything coming your way, make sure to log on to our website at sports.show.com. And tonight's Showbox comes to you from the Showbox Casino Resort on the central coast of California, where fight fans are betting on a good one. It's time for our main event featuring undefeated Tyrone Brunson going against his toughest opponent yet, the young but experienced Carson Jones. Kurt Menefee with you ringside, joined as always by Steve Farhood. Steve, why don't you just break down this main event for us?
Well, it's very interesting, Kurt, because I feel Tyrone Brunson has overcompensated for that knockout streak by trying to show everybody he knows how to box also. He can box, and he could probably box his way to a win against Carson Jones tonight, but Carson Jones is a fighter who's been hit, who's been hurt, and who's been stopped. So what Tyrone Brunson has to decide is when to be a boxer, when to be a puncher. Tonight, the right way to go might be to be very aggressive against Carson Jones and show his power. And one other thing also, in terms of marketability, obviously, more people are going to talk about Tyrone Brunson on national television if he scores some exciting knockouts.
Well, everyone has always talked about Tyrone Brunson as we bring back Antonio Tarver. And you know what? You look at this 19-0 streak that he started his career with, all first-round knockouts, setting the record. But the flip side of it means that he has not gone past the first round until the last 3 fights. Those are the only times he's been past there, and tonight he's scheduled to fight a 10-rounder. So how might that all impact him both mentally and physically as he steps into the ring this evening?
Well, you know, mentally, the thing is, until you've gone those rounds, you just don't know. And that can have an adverse effect on him mentally, because those negative thoughts get in your head. Can I be strong? Can I carry my endurance? Can I still be active enough to win a fight late? Physically, you know, your body gives up way before your mind. He has to have a strong mind, and if anyone, he needs to believe in himself tonight that he can do it.
All right, we will find out as Tyrone Brunson steps into the ring. And Brunson, out of Philadelphia, is a former Golden Glove champion who won 80 fights as an amateur before turning pro at age 20. Now, he admits that the pursuit of the knockout record did slow his growth as a boxer, but he's remained unbeaten against more appropriate opposition in the 3 fights since his achievement, including a 3-round TKO less than a month ago. Tonight, he steps up to competition and is anxious to show the world what he truly is. 24-year-old Tyrone Brunson, a young blend of speed and power, is 21-0-1 with 20 knockouts. A look behind the numbers, Steve.
Well, Brunson obviously dressed for success. Paper KOs. He started off with 19 consecutive first-round knockouts. So what? Only one of his victims, Showbox alum James Morrow, had a winning record. Go long, Tyrone. No surprise, in 22 bouts, Brunson's fought only 36 rounds. In fact, he's been past 1 round only 3 times his 3 most recent bouts, as Kurt mentioned. And the new Brunson, 2 distance fights in his last 3 Well, as soon as his first round KO record was broken, Brunson started boxing more and punching less.
Meanwhile, 23-year-old Carson Jones has almost as many fights as Brunson has rounds. He hasn't shied away from strong competition in his 5-year career, giving respectable efforts against Jesus Soto Caras, Freddie Hernandez, and Roberto Garcia in decision losses. He's a boxer-puncher who is unbeaten in his last 6, including an 8-round decision in late October. His boxing journey began in Oklahoma City, where he was kicked out of school for fighting at the age of 14. It now brings him here to Showbox with a mark of 23-7-1 with 14 knockouts. Let's go behind the numbers, Steve.
Well, this is a giant leap for Brunson. Jones, a huge step up. He's fought 166 rounds to Brunson's 36. He's been 10 rounds 5 times, and almost all of his losses have come against very good fighters. Have Card will fight. This will be Jones' 9th fight this year, his 15th since 2008. Compare that activity to Brunson, who's fought only 4 times since 2008. And weight he issued. Go figure. Yesterday, Jones scaled 154 1/4. 3 fights ago, he was 167. Last time out, he was 153, and he's been as light as 145. Junior middle, I think, is about where he belongs.
It is time now for tonight's Showbox main event from the Showbox Casino Resort in San Ynez, California. Undefeated Tyrone Brunson taking on Carson Jones in a junior middleweight bout scheduled for 10. Here now, our ring announcer, Mike Vale.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Showbox Casino Resort here in San Ynez, California, where tonight Gary Shaw Productions, Julio Marinas Productions, and Showtime present an evening of professional boxing action. Tonight's bouts are sanctioned by the California State Athletic Commission. The interim executive officer is Dave Thornton. Chairman Mario Rodriguez. The 3 judges scoring this bout are Jerry Cantu, David Denkin, and David Mendoza. And the referee in charge of the action is Dr. James Jenkin. So now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get the action started, I have one more thing to say. San Ynez, California, are you ready? This is the Showbox main event of the evening. 10 rounds of boxing in the junior middleweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. He is wearing the yellow and white trunks. Official weight 154 1/2 pounds. He has a professional record of 23 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw, with 14 of his wins coming by way of knockout. From Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, please welcome Kid Carson Jones. And now his opponent across the ring in the red corner. He is wearing the blue trunks. Official weight 154 1/4 pounds. He has a professional record of 21 wins, no losses, and 1 draw, with 20 of his wins coming by way of knockout. From Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, let's welcome the undefeated Tyrone the One Brunson.
You ready, baby?
Mouthpiece.
You fighting a real fighter?
Mouthpiece.
You fighting a real fighter?
Mouthpiece.
Tonight, baby. Hey, come on, man.
Mouthpiece.
Let's go to work, man.
Gentlemen, obey my commands. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Carson Jones thinks he's Antonio Tarver with those words there. Brunson with a long reach for this weight class. If he boxes from the outside, which is exactly what Jones is expecting, that reach advantage could be a key factor. Rules here in California, you can be saved by the bell in the last round. That's the major difference between these rules and the ABC rules.
And so Tyrone Brunson, unbeaten in the blue trunks. Carson Jones in the yellow and white. And you heard Jones telling Brunson, you're fighting a real fighter tonight, and that has really been the question so far in the young career of Tyrone Brunson. Unbeaten, but untested.
And Kurt, that's a follow-up from the weigh-in when Jones went right, verbally went right at Brunson and sort of insulted him and said, "You're not a real fighter." Amateur bouts. Brunson, pretty good amateur. No championships, but national tournaments. Jones, Western Olympic trials in '04, didn't win it. And of course, the number of rounds is tremendously different. Brunson, with all those fights, averaging, what, 1.5 rounds per fight.
That kind of happens when you're first 19 or first round knockouts. But as we said, that record, best ever for a fighter, but maybe the most questioned ever for a fighter is really towards the end. Even he admits his fighters were selected, his opponents were, to make sure that they didn't end that streak and that they went down, or the type of boxers that do go down rather early.
Yeah, and if that was the case, it was a lot of wasted time. I mean, the guy could have been in the gym working on some real skills to better able him to get by a guy like Carson Jones and beyond. You know, but it's you can obviously see that Tyrone knows his way around the ring. He has the style to be a good boxer. But just see how far, you know, see how this fight ends tonight.
And it's one of those things, you talk to him, he is almost embarrassed by that streak. He's changed his management since then and said, you know, they were more concerned about getting him a streak and getting his name out there more so than actually helping him become a better boxer. And if you look at it, his career really has been just one long sparring session almost. The first 19 so that he could set the record, and then after that, he's truly been trying to become a real boxer.
Yeah, exactly. And the first thing you see when you see Tyrone Brunson, if the fans have not seen him before, he's chiseled. I mean, this guy is built.
Yeah, he definitely looks the part. And, you know, and right now, his only focus should be convincing Carson Jones that he has that knockout.
Right. And with that Jeff Lacey-like body, I'm sure he scored some of those first-round knockouts before the bell ever rang.
Little intimidation factor. Seems to be working the body of Carson Jones in the early going here.
I like his movement. I mean, his defense is intact. But in boxing, you know, it's more mental than a lot of people want to believe. You know, you get mentally fatigued, you get mentally tired, and then, you know, your game plan goes out the window. He needs to stay mentally strong tonight throughout this fight.
How you feel? Good. Listen to me. Easy. Bring your hands back to your face.
These two fighters step into the ring tonight with slightly different plans. Let's hear first from Tyrone Brunson.
We're going to step to this guy, use our jab, use our lateral movement, give him angles, and let him see different things.
I bring speed. He's too slow for me. He's not going to be able to catch me. You know, when I fight, it comes natural. When he fights, he has to think about what he's going to do. So that's going to be the deciding factor.
It's all right. It's a 10-round fight, but we can't be. I don't want to see you in these rounds, all right? All right. But just don't go wild. He's just trying to counter. That's all. All right. We'll pick it up.
Carson Jones talked about his natural ability versus Tyrone Brunson thinking. And that's one of the things we actually kind of picked up a little bit on in our fighter meetings, is that Brunson seems to be trying to figure out who he is as a boxer.
Definitely. I mean, that's why I mentioned identity crisis right now. Is he that power puncher that his handlers want us to believe, or is he a systematic, stylistic fighter? You know, it looks like he has a great jab, but he needs to put that strong right hand behind it.
Well, this is only the fourth time in his career he's gone to the second round, all four his last four.
What I like about Brunson is that given that history he has, he's very relaxed in the ring. You might think that he'd be tightly coiled, having scored so many first-round knockouts, but he seems very comfortable and very capable of going along, at least so far.
And quite measured so far in this fight. You wonder about guys like that if they don't get over-aggressive because they're used to fighting that way, but seems to be patient and waiting for the right opportunity against Jones.
And unless I'm missing something, I don't see him taking a lot of punches. I don't think Jones has landed anything of note.
I don't think he's landed at all.
Another shot to the body by Brunson. Brunson trying to work that jab right in between the gloves of Jones. Connected there.
Snapping his head back, great jab.
Works the body to bring the hands down and goes right back to the jab. One thing you can say about Brunson so far, he's got a plan.
Most definitely, and seems very comfortable with it.
Watch your feet.
That jab is a power jab. I mean, there's a lot on that jab. He's not real good at bringing it back high after he throws it. A common mistake of young fighters. But maybe Jones can look for a counter right hand.
No hold, no hold. Work it out.
You know what's as impressive as anything so far from Brunson is not only his patience, but he's able to have power on his punches while walking backwards.
Especially with that jab, yeah.
Punch to come out. Let him go.
You know, Jones may take a lot of shots, but he's got the right idea. Pressure, pressure, pressure.
He's keeping it in close, or as close as Brunson will allow.
Let's do it. Come on. Breathe. Let's go. Sit down. How you feel, baby? Breathe. Got you in the bag. All right. You guys, give me that water.
You got the cold water right there. Cold water. That's for the mouthpiece.
Breathe. Take a deep breath. Nice and easy. Don't get, there you go. You gotta keep your chin down. Now you're trying to come over top with that right hand. All right, turn that shoulder, keep the right hands up.
Action from round 2. You might not think that the fighter who holds the record for first round knockouts at the start of a career, that the dominant weapon would be a jab, but that's exactly what it has been for Tyrone Brunson so far.
You saw a beautiful jab there, but he didn't bring it back high. He brought it low. He can be countered once he steps up in competition, or maybe even tonight.
Uppercut inside.
He's open for the right uppercut.
Mouthpiece, 7 seconds out. All right, let's go.
Yo, stay there.
Tyrone Brunson told us he wanted to pace himself through these first couple of rounds, and that he has done. And it looks like, Steve, done it while winning those rounds.
Oh, yeah, I think definitely 2 very clear rounds for Brunson.
Going right back to that jab. It has certainly been his most effective punch of the evening.
Work it. Punch it come out.
3 rounds or more. Tyrone Brunson. Only 3 times. You see how many times for Jones. So this fight doesn't really begin for Brunson for a couple more rounds.
And in his last fight against Antonio Soriano, he looked great, just like he does now. But it was the 3rd round, the 4th round, where it seemed like he dropped off tremendously. I'm anxious to see, can he keep that pace that he started?
He certainly believes he's in condition to go the distance. This fight scheduled for 10 rounds, but he's in trouble. Carson Jones with a right hand knocks Brunson down.
5, 6, 7, 8. Go.
And that's the first time Brunson has been knocked down in his career. And now he's looking defensive.
It's exactly what we talked about. It was a lazy jab, and he got countered by a right hand.
That was definitely a right hand counter. But before the round started, it seemed like he went into a shell. Maybe it's just a mental block that he has, that he just don't think he can keep that momentum up throughout the fight.
He is certainly fighting much more defensively than he did in the first 2 rounds. And you can see Jones trying to take advantage.
And what has that done for Jones? I mean, he's energized now. He knows he can win this fight.
He's certainly more aggressive. Combinations to the head. Very effective by Jones. And Brunson can do nothing but wrap up right now.
If he don't throw anything back, the ref is going to be inclined to stop this fight. He needs to be moving.
Referee's ready to go. He's ready to jump in.
And blood beginning to come out of the nose of Brunson. Jones delivering punishment, and the ref stops it. Carson Jones hands Tyrone Brunson his first defeat, getting a knockout here in the third.
Kurt, all I can say is when things got a little tough for Brunson, he didn't respond like a fighter.
Didn't respond at all. You're talking about a guy that had the makeup to be a contender or champion. I mean, he looked the part, the body, had all the punches, but the mental stopped him tonight. Just didn't believe he can do it.
This fight turned on one punch. The right hand that knocked Brunson down, and from that point on, it was like he didn't want to fight.
Exactly, and no problem at all with the stoppage. Antonio said it. Well, we'll see it right there. There's the counter right, followed by a good left hook, but the right started it. And from this point on, he was a beaten fighter. He didn't know what to do. Watch the jab by Brunson. He wasn't too quick to bring it back, and Carson Jones just timed him perfectly. It was as if taking all those jabs for a couple of rounds prepared Carson Jones to land that single shot. And maybe the reason that Brunson had 19 consecutive first-round knockouts at the start of his career was not because he was such a good puncher, but because he felt he needed to wipe these guys out because he can't take a punch.
Well, my thing is this. I mean, the first 2 rounds he fought beautifully, but it seems like he put on a different mask coming out in the 3rd round. He did not come out with the same intensity, didn't look to be aggressive. He just shelled up, he got caught, and once he got caught, it seemed like he just quit.
Well, he's not doing the 2 things you have to do, hold or punch back.
Or move.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe he didn't have the luck. Now he's trying to dip, he's trying to dodge, bob and weave, but he's getting hit with some shots. And basically he forced the referee's hand. James Jenkin, who's been refereeing fights for about 150 years, knows when to stop a fight, and he stopped it properly there.
And it's the exact same fight that Roy Jones fought against Green this weekend, this past Wednesday.
Yes.
Stood in the corner, didn't fire anything back. You have to protect yourself at all times, but you have to also keep in mind and be offensive.
Kid Carson Jones.
We came into this fight talking about Tyrone Brunson. We leave it talking about Carson Jones. And here's a young man who's now run his record to 24-7-1 and says, you know, don't be confused by those 7 losses, because he thought he had bad management early in his career, matched him up against some fighters he was not ready for. Since then has been active and been successful.
Well, credit to Carson Jones. He did what he had to do, but to me this was about Tyrone Brunson losing more than it was about Carson Jones winning. Maybe that's a little harsh to Carson Jones, but I see it that way. And right now, you look at Tyrone Brunson, he's joining a long list of fighters who've been exposed on Showbox. Robert Guerrero lost on Showbox. He came back and won a world title, but there were others who never came back. Nick Casal, Travis Kaufman recently lost on Showbox, and just a week ago, John Molina, undefeated, lost on Showbox. So it's a long list. We don't only show good young prospects who win. Sometimes they lose.
And it's not time to write Brunson off just yet. This is first defeat, first time he'd been knocked down, first time he'd been bloodied. Let's see how he responds to that, and whether or not he takes that as the defeat that changes him as a fighter, or bounces back and says, now I've learned something from that and I can be a better fighter because of it.
Please don't make these fighters need your support. 2 more fights on the card.
Well, in 2 weeks, Strikeforce is back with MMA action and the return of the incomparable Kung Lee.